Hi everybody, it's your digital technology librarian, Christy here, and it is already Friday again, and we are just a day away from Halloween, so happy early Halloween everybody. Um, as you know, we have had a fantastic month full of horror movie recommendations, family-oriented Halloween film titles, and, just in general, we've really kind of reveled in those scary stories about things that go bump in the night. But today, I wanted to do something totally different, so I decided that today's recommendations would be all about how everyone loves the 80s, right? I know that a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for that particular time period. I know that I do personally. And so all of today's recommendations are films that came out in the 80s and that have sort of at least a small cult following at the very least, if not a huge amount of critical acclaim. So hopefully you will be able to find something you find interesting within these titles, whether it's something fun and campy or something with a huge amount of awards behind it. I think there's going to be a little something for everybody. So, as always, all of these recommendations are totally available for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and all of these come from our 3 video services, which are CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Kanopy. So, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started on these recommendations, so keep watching. Let's kick our Everyone Loves the 80s recommendations off with a couple picks directly from CleveNet's Overdrive. Now, the first one sort of falls into that category of cult films that are super campy and really fun and ridiculous. I mean, everything from the fashion to the actors that are in it to the music screams 1980s, and that is going to be Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I think most of us, when we hear that title, we think immediately of the Cyndi Lauper song, and how could you not? It's such a fun, ridiculous, like sing along with me kind of song, right? And the movie is very much like that. It's in that same vein, and you'll definitely hear the song in the film. The film stars Sarah Jessica Parker as a girl named Janie. It also features performances from Helen Hunt. There's a smaller role in there for Shannon Doherty. You will see several cameos, including a teeny tiny one from Robert Downey Jr. Blink and you'll miss it. You might not even recognize him because 1980s Robert Downey Jr. definitely does not look like 2010's Robert Downey Jr., but there are just a lot of very familiar faces in it. So that's part of the fun when you're watching the movie. But to just sort of throw the basics out there, Janie, Sarah Jessica Parker's character, is this young girl who just moved to town. She is absolutely obsessed with this dance show that's filmed in town, and she really wants to be a part of it. She wants to audition for it. Her dad is like absolutely against her being involved in such a frivolous, ridiculous activity. She, of course, decides to go against his decisions, and she sneaks out and she starts practicing to these dance routines with both her best friend, Lynn, who's played by Helen Hunt, and then her own dance partner named Jeff. And, she's actually a really great dancer. She's been taking gymnastics and dance since she was a little kid, so she has like a serious background in it. And Jeff, her partner, is actually very good, even though he's not trained. So through the course of this movie, this duo is auditioning for a featured spot on the show. They're also dealing with this quintessential kind of 80s mean girl who is all about winning everything, even if she has to get her very wealthy father involved in order to do so. It's not the most original storyline out there, but it is very engaging and a lot of fun. And like I said, it's all about that 80s nostalgia, at least for me at this point. Like all of the call outs to things that I recall, like say like the fashion, the music, those dancing styles, all of those things are so prevalent throughout the film. I mean, This movie was designed to speak to the kids of the time, and it still speaks to the kids that were growing up then. And I think honestly it'll speak to kids today because of that sense of like eager, earnest fun. So if you're just looking for a really good time kind of feel good movie, definitely check out Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It's on CleveNet Overdrive, like I mentioned, and it's absolutely worth a quick, enjoyable watch. So that's our first rec for the day. My other CleveNet Overdrive rec is significantly more serious, and that's On Golden Pond. On Golden Pond is based on a play of the same title. It really focuses on this elderly couple, Norman and Ethel. Norman in the film version is played by Henry Fonda, and Ethel is played by the incomparable Katharine Hepburn. I mean, really, truly, the acting between these two is so phenomenal. Norman comes across immediately and throughout the vast majority of the film as this sort of crusty, curmudgeonly old guy who wants his own way and just is very set in his own beliefs and his own opinions. But there are these touches of like sort of sad humanity to him as well. Like, you can tell as he's aging, he's starting to have these moments where you're kind of curious, is he experiencing the beginnings of Alzheimer's and dementia? What exactly is going on with him? He has an estranged relationship with his daughter, who is successful on her own. She is starting this relationship with a new guy who has a teenage son. She has her own life totally separate from her parents, but that sort of gap between her and her father, it's very much felt by everyone in the family. So anyway, the story takes place over the summer, where Norman and Ethel always go to Golden Pond, where they rent a cabin and they just sort of relax. It's their summer home, I guess you could say. And their daughter, played by Jane Fonda, Henry's real-life daughter, ends up bringing her fiancé, boyfriend's teenage son to stay. She and the fiancé head off and to do their own thing and leave the son to stay with Norman and Ethel. And a large portion of this movie is watching Norman learn to interact with this young man, and how this young boy sort of subtly shifts certain things about Norman, but Norman also shifts things about the young boy, whose name is Billy. This relationship just is really beautiful to watch on screen. I mean, Henry Fonda just does an amazing, amazing job with this character. He's so layered. And in the end, it comes full circle, and we really see how this new relationship sort of helps Norman and his daughter's relationship evolve as well. Now, is this one like super lighthearted, and is it gonna make you dance around like Girls Just Want to Have Fun? Absolutely not. But it's definitely one of those films that will stick with you for a while afterward. It's very moving in so many ways, and I love a good story about a father-daughter relationship, especially complicated ones. I just think they're really beautiful, and this one is done exceptionally well. And what adds even more to the storyline is I was reading some background information, and I discovered that Jane Fonda had actually purchased the rights to make the film from the play, specifically so her father could play Norman. She wanted to be in a picture with her dad. She wanted to be able to have that experience, specifically this storyline, specifically to allow him to have that, to show off the kind of range that he needed within this storyline. So I just think that adds this extra meta layer on top of everything else. So if you're looking for a beautiful movie about familial relationships, specifically about generational gaps and fathers and daughters and grandsons and grandfathers, you absolutely need to check out On Golden Pond. It's beautifully acted and wonderfully written. Absolutely worth the watch. Okay, so for our second set of recommendations of I Love the 80s movies, we're going to go ahead and start off with Hoopla's Moonstruck. Now, Moonstruck is one of those super famous romantic comedy titles. Everybody's at least heard of it. It's on all of the big top lists like AFI's best romances and things like that. But maybe you, for whatever reason, were never able to watch it. I'm here to say you absolutely have to if you haven't seen it. And if you have seen it, it's worth another watch just because it's that good. Now, I admittedly enjoy a good romantic comedy. I enjoy a bad romantic comedy. But this one is one that sort of elevates the genre because you have a lot of your typical storyline elements, romantic comedy storyline elements, but somehow it shifts into this amorphous thing where it's so much better than the sum of those parts. Now, you have a love triangle played by three fantastic actors. You have Cher playing Loretta. You have Nicolas Cage performing in what's probably one of his stronger acting performances, playing Ronnie. And then you have Danny Aiello playing Johnny. Now, Loretta and Johnny are recently engaged. They've been together for years. They seem very happy. Loretta finally meets Johnny's brother, Ronnie, who blames Johnny for an accident that happened years and years ago, that still causes a lot of friction between them, and she ends up falling in love with Ronnie. They are everything that she and Johnny aren't. She and Johnny are stable, they're happy, they're comfortable. She and Ronnie are absolutely not comfortable. They are fire and ice. They are oil and water. They argue constantly, but they still somehow fit. Those are all pretty typical kinds of storylines. I mean, that's nothing new. But for whatever reason, the performances really make it something special. Cher especially, and I'm a huge Cher fan. Like, I love her other films as well, like whether or not we're talking about Mermaids or Mask or anything like that, or even Burlesque. I love Cher, but she's especially wonderful in Moonstruck. It's like she really sank into the role and totally embodies this character of Loretta. And you go on her journey with her. She pulls you in and you are super sympathetic to the things that she wants, the things that she's looking for, the things that she's feeling at the time. Even if normally, like, a romance that kind of involves someone falling in love with someone they're not supposed to, even if that's normally 100% not your thing, you definitely get her reasoning or lack thereof. Nicolas Cage is one of those love him or hate him kind of actors. I know that he's had sort of a falling out as far as critics go in his last couple decades. Decades, I don't know. But he does a fantastic job with Ronnie. Ronnie is angry, he's bitter, but he's also still passionate about life. He's cultured in ways that Johnny isn't, but it's not that Johnny's not cultured. It's just Ronnie embodies those things in a different way. And Johnny is more than just this flat, put upon, sad character that gets, cheated on. He's much more than that. So you have your basic romantic comedy love triangle storyline, but elevated to a degree that I didn't expect to find in Moonstruck. So if you're looking for something funny, something sweet, something romantic, you definitely should check out Moonstruck. It's a fantastic example of what romantic comedies can be. It's a fantastic example of what good acting in romantic comedies can do for a pretty standard storyline. So please do check out Moonstruck, whether you've seen it about a million times or you've never seen it before. It's absolutely worth checking out. I really have to give a quick shout out to another Hoopla title called Heathers. Um, Heathers is the Mean Girls of the 1980s, except it's way more mean. It's a super black comedy uh, where sometimes the black elements, those dark, sort of sinister pieces, edge out any of the comedy. And it stars Christian Slater and Winona Ryder, and they are absolutely fantastic in this. They walk that line of likable and despicable, especially Slater. He does such a fantastic job in his role. um, you have this group of girls called the Heathers. Like I said, this is the Mean Girls of the 80s. So the Heathers have these, they're super powerful in their community and in their school. They run everything. People fear them because of all the power they have. And then you have uh, Veronica, who is played by Winona Ryder, who is part of the group, but also just really, really sick of all of them at the same time. And so when she starts hanging out with JD, who is Christian Slater's character, things start to go awry. Now, he's definitely set up to be sort of this like mysterious rebel kind of bad boy character, and he definitely succeeds in coming across as such. I mean, like the things that he does in this movie, the things that the Heathers do in this movie, it's really, it's really over the top in certain places, but it's perfectly over the top. Um, if you are a fan of, say, like the Mean Girls movie and you haven't seen Heathers, you 100% need to. It is unexpected in a lot of ways. The things that happen are surprising and maybe even shocking if you've not watched it. But most of all, it's just watching these ridiculous characters interact with one another, and all anchored by the duo of Ryder and Slater, who do a fantastic job in their roles. It's a cult classic for a reason, and I can't recommend it more. Please do check out Heathers on Hoopla. Fantastic choice, and it's a fast watch too. It's not one that feels like it's going to drag along. It's super quick, so make sure you check out Heathers. Another one that I have for recommendation from Hoopla is um, a super cute movie called Baby Boom that stars Diane Keaton. Uh, it's written by Nancy Myers and Charles Shire, and it's kind of a romantic comedy, but more of a woman finding herself kind of storyline, I guess. Kind of in the vein of Eat, Pray, Love, I guess, maybe a little bit. It's a lot less hokey, I think. If not to offend any Eat, Pray, Love fans, but this one I think has a much less touchy feely storyline. It's pretty straightforward. Um, Diane Keaton is fantastic. She plays this super driven career woman. Is in this long term relationship with another career driven person. They have no kids. They don't really have intentions of like changing their lifestyle. They make good money. They are very happy with the status quo. All of a sudden, Keaton's character kind of inherits a baby. I don't know how to better describe it. I mean, she inherits a baby, and it turns her world upside down. Because, of course, if you're used to living in a certain way without kids, without any extra external worries as far as family goes, and then you're suddenly thrown into the deep end with a baby and everything that comes with it, it's going to make for a bumpy road. And she has a road that has crazy bumps. Um, It causes massive issues with her career, of course. Just in general, like the things that she was able to do, she can no longer do. Her relationship, her long-standing relationship with her equally career-driven yuppie boyfriend, that starts to fall apart, and she finds herself at this crossroads. And what I loved is that this movie doesn't say she has to make these decisions or those decisions, and if she doesn't make these, that makes her somehow weak, nor does it say, if she, the best decision would be to give up the career and find something else. It really is sort of this organic sort of evolution, what happens to her and the way that her career path turns. So if you're looking for something that's sort of like an older version of a coming of age tale, Baby Boom is a lot of fun. It has fantastic performances from her. Sam Shepard is in it. He plays a local vet. She moves away from, I don't think it's giving anything away to say that she moves out of Manhattan for a time, and the place where she goes, she meets a vet who could potentially be a romantic interest. And that vet is played by Sam Shepard, and Sam Shepard is always fantastic. So you have a really, really charming storyline in that respect, but it never overshadows the growth that happens to Keaton's character. That's always central to the film, and I love that about it. So again, if you're looking for a story that focuses on a grown-up woman who ends up having to make ultimately major, major decisions based on a sudden circumstance, please do check out Baby Boom. It's a lot of fun, and it's a really sweet movie. And finally, I have one more from Hoopla. I know it's a lot from Hoopla, but it had such a great selection. I could not skip this one. If you are in the mood for a hilarious film, you absolutely must watch Spaceballs. Spaceballs is probably my favorite, well, one of my favorite comedies of all time. Whether or not we're talking about 80s movies, whether we're talking about sci-fi 80s movies, whether we're talking about parody movies, Spaceballs is amazing. It's a Mel Brooks film. Mel Brooks films are amazing in general, but this one in particular is fantastic. We're dealing with kind of a spoof parody of Star Wars and pretty much every space movie that was ever made prior to the 1980s. And you have characters that are clearly spoofing Chewbacca, Yoda, Jabba the Hutt, and they cast it so well. Bill Pullman plays the Han Solo character, and he's kind of a fantastic sort of foil for Harrison Ford. He has that sort of like devil may care flashy side that you automatically like, and it is very similar, and you do respond as an audience member to that kind of character in the same way that you did in, say, Star Wars. Mel Brooks plays a fantastic little alien. I won't give away his name, but he's wonderful. You have the phenomenal John Candy playing the Chewbacca foil. Daphne Zuniga is in it as a Princess Leia style character. I mean, the Star Wars references are pretty heavy hitting all over the place. And then, best of all, is Rick Moranis playing Dark Helmet, who is clearly Darth Vader. Rick Moranis is amazing in everything he does. It's such a shame that he went through a circumstance where we don't get to see him very much anymore, because he is really an awesome actor. I mean, he's a comedian. He has all of those tics that a comic actor would have, but he is able to engage an audience in a way that I think a lot of comedic actors don't have or don't do. So yeah, even when playing something as ludicrous as a parody of Darth Vader, he does an incredible job, and he's hilarious in this movie. Um, so if you're looking for something funny, you're looking for something fun, you're looking for something that will make you laugh out loud and have a really good time, and you just are looking for something dumb that's not going to make you think too hard, you have to check out Spaceballs. It's the absolute best parody that I've found on uh, Hoopla, especially. But just in general, as a fan, I just think that everybody should watch this movie. It's hilarious. So, Spaceballs on Hoopla, 100% worth it. Check it out. Our last set of recommendations for I Love the 80s week come from Kanopy, of course, and the first of those is the much lauded film Children of a Lesser God. Children of a Lesser God is based on a play of the same title, and it's honestly an incredibly good adaptation. I mean, for what could be a very difficult stage to screen switch, it it just it's just so good and so well performed. It follows the story of James Leeds, I believe his name is James Leeds, who is a brand new instructor at a school for the deaf in somewhere in New England. I don't think that we ever learn exactly where. Uh, and he's quite popular with the students. He's an excellent teacher. He is empathetic. He is excellent at what he does. And he's sort of fascinated by this staff member who's part of their custodial team, who's named Sarah and who's deaf, and she's played by Marlee Matlin, who's deaf in real life, who also played the character in the stage play, I believe. And Sarah is just such a fascinating character. She has issues. She absolutely has some issues, but she's this spitfire woman. Like she has so much going on, and she's just really fascinating. And Matlin plays her so well. Like you can feel the energy coming off the screen. It's crazy how amazing she is. And this relationship and romance sort of develops between the two characters, and they're always at odds because uh, part of his teaching, a part of James's teaching syllabus involves getting his students to try and learn to speak rather than solely relying on sign language. And Sarah just is not interested. She's not, for a lot of reasons, and you learn those as the film goes on. So they're one of the big caveats in their relationship is that it's this rejection of not only what he does but what he sort of stands for, and that's a huge part of the drama within the film. And if it was just that one thing, it would be kind of flat and sort of boring, but for whatever reason, the chemistry between the two is so strong that it just makes everything sort of this tumultuous, crazy combination of emotions constantly going on. So, if you are looking for a film that, is really engrossing, that really delves into an ever evolving relationship between two people, Children of a Lesser God is absolutely a perfect film for you. Um, Matlin ended up winning the Best Actress Academy Award for this one and a slew of other awards for it as well. And you 100% will understand why as soon as you watch. She's just phenomenal. And it's one of those movies that I don't think is meant to be a star vehicle, but 100% became one simply because she's such a strong performer in this. So again, Children of a Lesser God, 100% worth watching. Check it out. Now, my second recommendation on Kanopy is significantly different from Children of a Lesser God, and that is Clue the movie. If you are not familiar with Clue the movie, you may be asking, how on earth can a board game become a film? Well, You can have some really fantastic actors get together to essentially play a real life board game. I mean, there are all of these aliases, like you've got Miss Scarlet, Professor Plum, all of the familiar names that you know are different characters in this film. Those are their alias. They become their aliases. And you have a murder mystery to solve, and you are solving this murder mystery along with everybody who's performing in it. And part of the fun is knowing how ludicrous the film is, but also just recognizing all of the different actors that you probably have seen before. I mean, Christopher Lloyd, Madeline Kahn. Madeline Kahn is amazing in this. Martin Mull, Leslie Ann Warren, Tim Curry. There are so many people in this movie, and you know, it's not about it being well acted, despite the fact that they do fantastic jobs with all of their performances. It's about the whole nudge nudge wink winkness of it too. I think that's a huge part of it, because again, it is a movie based on a board game created in a way that knows that it's a movie based on a board game. We aren't dealing with like Jumanji that has this whole different sort of setup and that relies so heavily on special effects and all of this other stuff. This is pretty low budget in comparison, and I think that's part of the fun of it. So if you're just looking for something light and ridiculous, murder mystery classic, check out Clue the movie. It's so much fun. And finally, my last recommendation is for a film that I 100% recall watching when I was a kid called Explorers. It features this cadre of three young, nerdy kids played by Ethan Hawke, River Phoenix, and Jason Presson that somehow figure out how to create a working spacecraft. Um, it's obviously not a super believable storyline, but that's not what it's about. It really is about the friendship between these three, and the three kids are really solid actors. I mean, I know you get a lot of child actors that are hard to watch. Maybe it's just me, but a lot of times I find kid actors difficult to empathize with. But these three, you absolutely fall in with their story, with the kind of friendship they have, with the difficulties they have with, say, like bullies and everything like that. And no matter how out of this world, no pun intended, the storyline gets, you're there with them and you root for them and you enjoy them. So if you're looking for sort of a nerdy, fun, coming of age story with really solid child performers, please do check out Explorers. It's a really nice movie. It's one of those that is just fun and enjoyable. So with that, I am all finished with my I Love the 80s recommendations. I just want to do another quick plug for our top 25 horror hits. Um, we did put out a video on YouTube about the top 10 of those horror picks available on our three platforms. If you haven't watched it yet and you're looking for a scary movie, make sure you check it out. I'll make sure that I put a link in the description. And with that, I hope everyone has a fantastic and safe and happy Halloween. And I will see you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.